Hello everyone, good morning. Welcome back to second part of Cloud Practitioner course. If you have not attended or watched part 1 of the course, I would highly recommend visit the part 1 video and then continue with this video too. I provided the part 1 video link in the description of this video. Let's start the course. Today we will review AWS services and their use cases. So AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner. Yesterday in the previous video we gone through what is cloud computing. We reviewed IT job roles and certificates or certifications provided by AWS. We reviewed Cloud Practitioner syllabus and we started with a few of the AWS cloud services. We also reviewed regions, availability zones, billing, cost explorer, compliance and security. Today we will be more focusing on cloud services and use cases. So yesterday, just to do a quick recap what was done in the first video or previous yesterday course. So we reviewed cloud computing and these are the links, and we looked at the cloud practitioner certificate. Then we looked at cloud developer and cloud architect certificates or the certification courses, and then we looked at what are the services will be important for you to excel in this cloud developer or cloud architect roles, and cloud data analyst or analytics use cases, and the relevant certificate provided by the AWS is AWS Certified Data Engineer. And we also reviewed DevOps and SysOps. So the equivalent certificates are provided by the AWS. And AWS cloud services in these categories are like network, compute, database, storage, security and dev tools. So and then we started with the what is the syllabus of AWS Cloud Practitioner. AWS Cloud Practitioner comes with AWS Cloud Computing concepts, AWS Global Infrastructure, AWS Cloud Management Services, AWS Billing and Pricing, AWS Shared Responsibility Model. We reviewed some of these and we started with AWS IAM and we reviewed EC2 in the compute, but we will be reviewing all the remaining services today. So AWS compute, database, storage, machine learning services. So I have put together all the list of services to take Cloud Practitioner course. You need to at least have understanding of what service is meant for what purpose. For example, in the network, you need to know VPC, Transit Gateway, Direct Connect, API Gateway, CloudFront, Route 53. So these are the services you should know at a high level what are they meant for. In Cloud Practitioner exam, questions could be asked so that you can identify which service is meant for what purpose. Similarly, in the compute, you have EC2, Lambda and Elastic Load Balancer, ELB. Databases, you have RDS, NoSQL, database services. Storage, S3 bucket, EBS, Elastic Block Storage, Elastic File Storage. Messaging, you have SQS, SNS, SES. Okay. Monitoring, VPC flow logs, CloudWatch and CloudTrail. So we will go through these services today session. All you need to know is at a high level what are these services meant for. And if you can identify the service in the multiple choice answers, you will be able to take the exam and easily get passed. Okay. So in the security, we will touch Secret Manager, AWS Shield and WAF, and also machine learning services. So let's start. Let's log into your AWS accounts if you have. If not, you can just watch here. I will be walking through the services in AWS console because that's the effective way for you to see and remember the services. Again, for Cloud Practitioner, you don't need to have hands-on. You need to know what that service and how it works, and at least identify the service when a question comes for what service is meant for what purpose again, right? So if I open the Cloud console and if I just quickly go to API Gateway. So yesterday we spoke on VPC. VPC is meant for virtual private cloud, to create the network, right? Logical or virtual network. And we looked at Direct Connect. Direct Connect is meant for to communicate or to establish a data connection or the network connection between the on-prem data center and any nearby AWS cloud region. You can have Direct Connect. And if you wanted to have a communication between multiple AWS regions, so we also reviewed yesterday regions and availability zones, right? So if you have some workloads or applications running in multiple regions, and if they have to communicate to each other, you don't need to go through the network internet. You don't need to let the network be on the internet. You can use transit gateways to bridge the connection between the workloads between two or multiple regions. So that's for transit gateway. Now let's quickly review what is API gateway. So if you search for API gateway, you will see API gateway is a API proxy. So this is for API platform, or you can build HTTP APIs, WebSocket APIs, or REST APIs. You can also have REST APIs public or private. So these are the APIs you can create, maintain and manage these APIs in the API gateway. So just remember, AWS API gateway is meant for building and delivering or deploying the APIs. Okay, it can be REST APIs or it can be even HTTP APIs, so you can even do SOAP APIs on this. And the backend can be your application running on EC2 or Lambda or any IP address or a load balancer. So just know that API gateway exists, and this is the API service for meant to deploy APIs on AWS. Okay, the second one I would like you to know is CloudFront. We touched base on this actually yesterday when we were talking on infrastructure as the code, or we touched on this when we were talking on distribution, right? Like cloud it's a CDN, cloud distribution network. Okay, so content delivery network, so CDN meant for. So CloudFront is a AWS CDN, content delivery network service, which has 600 plus point of presence around the world. They cache the content. If you want to host a website, a web application, or an APIs, and you want this content to be cached globally, AWS CloudFront is your service. And just I want you to touch base few things in this service. You have something called geo restrictions. Okay, you can write allow list or blacklist. For example, this website I have allow list as India, so the website I deployed only works in India but not outside, right? So you can have allow list or blacklist. Okay, so you can restrict the countries where you don't want your website to be working, so you can have geo restriction. And also AWS CloudFront comes with a WAF, which is a security web application firewall. Just remember, this is also comes in the exam. So what is the application firewall service in AWS is called WAF, web application firewall, where you can put block list IP addresses, and you can block the IPs or bot traffic or any specific country originated IPs, or you can whitelist only your application or website or APIs will work from only whitelisted IPs. Okay, so and origins is basically you can point to an S3 bucket or a APIs or any backend. So just know that CloudFront is a CDN solution. It has also geo restrictions. Okay, that should be good enough for you to know what for this service is meant for. And this is a global service, remember. So CloudFront is a global service, not like per region you have to select. Okay, so that is CloudFront. So the last network service I would like you to know for to take the exam is Route 53. If you search for Route 53, you will understand Route 53. AWS Route 53 is a DNS resolver or DNS service. Okay, so this is basically for DNS resolving. For example, if you are looking for any website with a proper name, apple.com or example.com or your website name.com, internet world of browsers and all will try to resolve do the DNS lookup first, right? It will try to resolve the nice name into an IP address. So this service is meant for DNS resolving. Okay, so just remember AWS Route 53 is a DNS resolver. There is no free service here. This service charges 50 cents per month, so it's pretty cheap. Even if you are trying to learn AWS and wanted to host your personal website or personal resume or personal blog or anything, you can just purchase the domain from AWS itself or purchase from any third-party domain registrars, and you can use the AWS Route 53 as the DNS service also. So it supports domain names. It has hosted zones. Hosted zones are like public hosted zone or private hosted zone. Enterprise companies also uses Route 53 for their internal domain resolutions. Like nobody wants to remember the server names by IP addresses, right? So they use private hosted zones also. And health checks. You can monitor your health check of your backend targeted load balancers. So AWS Route 53 is not only DNS, it also does traffic flow with health checks, and it can also do load balancing. You can see here, right? It's also a DNS resolver, right? So you can use for traffic management, you can use for alias to your AWS resources, and it is highly available and reliable service. Okay, so that is Route 53. If I go back and look for the services list, so what we covered VPC, transit gateway, direct connect, API gateway, CloudFront, and Route 53. So in the networking, just remember this, okay? This will come in the exam. Also, I was mentioning yesterday, there is another service called Global Accelerator, which will improve the performance of the services, right? So that's another one. So if you know these services, what service is meant for what purpose, that's good enough. As I was saying, you don't need to really have a hands-on to take this cloud practitioner exam. Okay, so now let's continue with our compute. We looked at EC2 and we were looking at the Lambda, so we will continue EC2, Lambda, and ELB, which is again a load balancer, right? So let's look at the compute services of AWS. Again, if I go back to my AWS console and if I search for EC2, so it will take me to the Elastic Cloud Compute. So remember the name of the EC2, Elastic Cloud Compute, and you can see you can create the instances in all these operating systems. So EC2 is a infrastructure as a service. So you are basically renting a virtual machine from AWS, and you can deploy your own softwares, your own applications, libraries, and you can use it. So AWS EC2 is infrastructure as a service, and it comes with a free tier. I already mentioned. So if you are trying to learn on EC2 hands-on, you can do, but at least remember AWS EC2 is a infrastructure as a service cloud computing service. So this will come in the exams, and I was talking about types also, right? You can have various instance types, and you can save the cost of the EC2 by purchasing the instances. Like we discussed yesterday, we can purchase the instances upfront with 1 year commitment or 3 year commitment. That is called reserved instances. Okay, if you don't purchase them and if you just launch them on the demand, that's called on demand. So you have 4 types of cost savings on EC2. On demand, you just spin up, you want to do some POCs, spin up an EC2, connect to the EC2, do your job, shut down the EC2. That's called on demand. Or if in production, enterprise companies knows that they will be using this EC2 for next 1 year, 3 years, 5 years. So they can purchase the reserved capacity and pay upfront little bit and get a discount of 30 to 50% also. So that's called reserved instances. Okay, a question might come in your practitioner exam that you can save money by purchasing upfront reserved capacity. Okay, just remember EC2 supports reserved capacity to save money. Okay, so that's a reserved capacity. Spot instances, AWS also came up with a new type called spot instance. Whenever AWS has unused infrastructure in the region, they like a eBay bidding, you can bid your instance and you can say I will take any EC2 if the cost is less than this much, then you will get the on spot instance also. Okay, so that's spot instance. Some companies, due to licensing requirements, they need dedicated hardware. So AWS EC2 also provides a dedicated hardware instance. Okay, just remember this, there are cost savings capabilities in EC2 and it comes with multiple types and multiple operating systems. EC2 stands for Elastic Cloud Compute. This is the top compute service in AWS. And AWS came up with a concept called serverless, right? So what if the organization or a startup company doesn't want to have infrastructure team and manage the EC2 servers, patching, deployments and maintaining those servers, right? Auto scaling, load balancing. So AWS came up with a concept called serverless. The developers of the organization can just write the code, deploy into Lambda without even thinking about servers like EC2. So AWS Lambda is a serverless functions. Okay, If you see the dashboard, you can just create the functions. There is no servers. You just write a function, deploy it, and it will execute. Okay, if you want to just see my okay, I will go to Mumbai region, because in my Mumbai region I have a function. So this is how it will be in Node.js. This is in, so AWS Lambda supports multiple runtimes. There are 6 plus programming languages you can do, and just I wanted to show you those, so I will go to create function. See, AWS supports all these programming languages. You can just write your code, deploy, and go, and the application will be up, functions will be up and running. You don't need to manage the server's capacity. So it supports all these programming languages. Okay, Node.js, Python, Ruby, and even it supports a Docker image also. Okay, so that is AWS Lambda. So remember that if you are using infrastructure as a service, it is EC2. If you are using a serverless function on AWS, it is called Lambda. Okay, so if you identify those, at least in the exam, that will be great. I just wanted to say a couple of more services if at all comes in the exam, or for your knowledge. Container services. AWS also has Docker and Kubernetes, advanced build and programming and deployment management platforms they are. Okay, if you are ever getting into AWS developer or a solution architect, you might be interested to know Kubernetes. AWS supports is called EKS, Elastic Kubernetes Service, or AWS also has proprietary container service called ECS, Elastic Container Service. Okay, so just remember those. I don't think they will come in the exam. Nobody will be looking for you to know very deep knowledge on them, but just remember that AWS has container services, ECS, and Kubernetes service called EKS. Okay, Elastic Container Service, Elastic Kubernetes Service. Okay, so then in the compute, I would like you to know about ELB or load balancer. Okay, if you search for load balancers, so and if I go there, if I try to create a load balancer, then you will see there are 3 type of load balancers AWS supports. One is called application load balancer, second one is network load balancer, third one is gateway load balancer. Okay, so application load balancer is when you will use it when you want to distribute the traffic among your backend via HTTP and HTTPS traffic. You can use application load balancer. You can see, and your backend application can be in Lambda, or it can be in a EC2, or it can be even in container services like ECS or EKS. So this is where you will do load balancing of your backend applications. And AWS ALB supports path-based routing and also canary deployments, blue-green deployments, weighted routes. So it's an advanced AWS load balancer. If you are trying to get into your DevOps roles or network engineering role, you need to know these things. And also as a solution architect, you need to know that you have these capabilities to do zero downtime deployments and all. Again, as a cloud practitioner, you just need to know there are 3 load balancers AWS provides to distribute the load. Okay, application load balancer, network load balancer is meant for ports like TCP, UDP, TLS ports. Okay, again in the backend you can have again ALB or container services or EC2s. So the difference between network load balancer and application load balancer is application load balancer works at the layer 7 and NLB works at the layer 3 of the network. Okay, and AWS also came up with a gateway load balancer. If a question comes, just remember the name. So gateway load balancers are meant for any third-party softwares you want to load balance. Okay, like any third-party virtual appliances like firewalls and all. Okay, so if you know EC2 is an infrastructure as a service, Lambda is a serverless, container services are ECS and EKS, and load balancers are application load balancer, network load balancer, and gateway load balancer. In the computational world, this is good enough for cloud practitioner exam. Okay, what service is meant for what purpose. Okay, so now with that we will now get into databases. Okay, so in databases we have RDS, which is a relational database service, and we have NoSQL, so which is a non-relational database service. Okay, so I have some slides. I would like to go through this so that you will understand all the services available. Okay, in this. So let me go through the slides here. So let me go through, I think I will go through the console and I will go through the services. Or I was looking for the services. Let me open this and okay, I will go through the services. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, so I wanted to go through AWS Amazon database services. I have few slides, then I will go through the console also, and I will show you these services in the console. Okay, so again, as a cloud practitioner certification, all you need to know what service is for what. AWS has so many database services they have purposefully built for a specific use case. So we will just look at these database services. You don't need to have hands-on, you don't need to have deep knowledge, but to take the cloud practitioner exam, at minimum you need to know what service is meant for what purpose. Okay, so let's review all the database services. Okay, so relational database. So you will, when you have on-prem relational workloads, okay, and ad hoc query patterns, you will use this service. Okay, this is for structured data, right? Relational databases are for structured data, remember. So AWS RDS supports Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB. Just remember the server names. Okay, a question might come, what servers they support, okay, or the database engines they support. Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server are commercial ones, and MySQL, PostgreSQL, MariaDB are the free open source databases. Okay, so AWS also came up with their own proprietary database architecture called service called Amazon Aurora. Just remember, Aurora is also a RDS service, and Aurora supports again MySQL and Postgres. Aurora only supports these two flavors. Okay, if you want to have a commercial database like Oracle or Microsoft SQL Server, you have to go with RDS. Okay, then next is key value database. So from here we will start with the NoSQL databases. Okay, so I hope you all know at least what is a relational database and a NoSQL database. NoSQL database is primarily where you don't want to store any structured data, and it's a very highly distributed databases. So there are works like in a different patterns of no primary key, foreign keys, relationals, and also key value database is schemaless, and they are easy to scale, and you can store different columns and data types, okay, on the fly. So one of the key value database that AWS supports, very popular and important database engine, is DynamoDB. I would like you to remember this. AWS offers NoSQL database, Amazon DynamoDB. So Amazon DynamoDB is the NoSQL database. Okay, so this will come in your exam. So if you are looking for any semi-structured or unstructured data, and you wanted to store the data for large volumes, and like gaming applications or e-commerce applications also can store, so the database that AWS supports is DynamoDB. Okay, in-memory database. So often we need applications to store the data in the cache, correct? Every time we don't want application to go to database and fetch the data, right? So we use caching layers in the application, right? So AWS also came up with caching layers, and those caching service is called, database is called Amazon Elasticache. Okay, again just remember the name, Amazon Elasticache. Amazon Elasticache supports Redis and Memcache. Okay, this is little details just for you to know for the exam. Remember that key value pair is DynamoDB, and in-memory database AWS offers is Elasticache. Okay, DocumentDB. This is like any developers are using MongoDB as their JSON based document database. The equivalent database on AWS is called DocumentDB. Okay, again, just remember AWS has MongoDB compatible database called DocumentDB. Okay, if an exam question comes, what is your MongoDB equivalent database? It's DocumentDB. Okay. Wide column, any data analytics guys or reporting guys or Cognos guys who worked on Cognos, okay, if they should know, this is a columnar database, not like a row database. So whenever you have a columnar database use case, and on AWS, if you want to know the equivalent database, it's called wide column database, okay, or it's called Amazon Key Spaces. Just remember the database name. Amazon Key Space is the database name, okay, that's for columnar. Graph database, nowadays the social networks like Facebook, LinkedIn, they don't store the data in any of the relational or non-relational databases. They need graph linked list that we used to study during our college academic days, right? Graph database, linked list. So graph database, AWS also supports a graph database. If you wanted to store any data like a social networking and relational, it's called Amazon Neptune. Again, just remember the name, okay, for to take the cloud practitioner exam, Amazon Neptune. I would recommend, if you wanted to note down, take a cheat sheet and note down all these names, write it in a book before you go to the exam, so that you can revise them, right? So you need to remember these terminologies before taking the exam, because AWS Cloud Practitioner will look for foundation of the cloud computing, and also they will look which AWS service is meant for what purpose. That's what they will test. So if you know what service is for what purpose, that's good enough to take the exam. So graph database is Neptune, okay, and AWS came up with recently another two new services, time series. So just by the name you can say, if you have any data from the IoT devices which is very specific to time, is our primary key, AWS came up with a time stream database, okay, Amazon time stream, okay. So then the next database is nowadays you might have heard blockchain, right? Ledger databases. So AWS also came up with a ledger database, and they call it as QLDB, okay, Amazon Quantum Ledger Database. So again, remember all these names. So I will revise one time very quickly. Amazon QLDB for Quantum Ledger, correct? So these are the databases you need to remember for the database perspective. So we will go back to our original slides, right, where we were here. Yes. So if you look back again, so we looked at network, VPC, Transit Gateway, Direct Connect, API Gateway, CloudFront, Route 53, EC2, Lambda, Load Balancer, and RDS and all NoSQL databases. So if you remember and recognize the databases for what purpose, you can, that's good enough to cover for Cloud Practitioner. And now let's get into storage. So the very important service in AWS storage is S3 buckets, okay. So S3 buckets is object storage service. There will be a couple of questions on S3 buckets. So I will walk through the S3 in the console itself. After that, we will quickly review two other services called Elastic Block Storage, Elastic File Storage. So these are the three services you need to know in the storage, okay. So if I go back to AWS console and search for S3 buckets, right. So you can see I have multiple S3 buckets. So you can create a bucket and store the bucket, okay, store the data in the bucket. So for example, I have my React application in a S3 bucket, okay, website. So you can store any object in the S3 bucket, okay. What I wanted you to know primarily in the bucket is S3 buckets are global namespace. The name what you will take, anybody else cannot be taken. It's a global namespace. S3 buckets. S3 buckets are equivalent, like you can think of Google Drive, Microsoft Dropbox, but S3 bucket is very powerful, okay. So few important things might come in your exam is S3 bucket has a storage types, okay. So if I go through S3 bucket properties, you know, you can have S3 bucket encryptions, okay. And I think I will show you when I am creating a new bucket, it will ask for those features. So I will create a new bucket and I will show you the properties of AWS S3 bucket. That's very important. See, you can choose your any bucket name and bucket you can make it public, or you can block all the access so that S3 bucket is not public. So for example, in your organization you wanted to have a use case where you wanted to store application receipts, PDFs, images. For example, Facebook customers wants to store their photos, right, images, profile photos. So any objects, any photos, XMLs, log files, anything you want to store in AWS, your object storage is S3 bucket. Okay, and just remember, in AWS S3 bucket you can store indefinite, but each object cannot be more than 5 terabyte. That's a very large enough, right? Single file cannot be more than 5 terabyte, but you can store unlimited storage. Okay, you will just pay how much you store. And again, AWS S3 bucket is a serverless. You don't need to create any servers, correct? You just create the bucket and you can store data. Analytical use cases, or anybody looking into data engineering or data analyst use cases also, S3 bucket is a very useful service. Okay, so you can have versioning. Just remember, if any question comes, AWS S3 supports versioning also. Okay, and you can have encryption, right? You can have 3 type of encryptions. I would recommend just remember these encryptions. You can have self encryptions. So S3 bucket will manage the encryption, or you can have KMS, AWS Key Management Service encryption, or you can have customer managed encryptions also. Okay, so I just want you to know AWS comes with versioning, encryptions, and also they have storage classes. Okay, so what are storage classes means? If I just go to AWS storage classes. Okay, so AWS provides various storage classes like a general purpose. Okay, so various storage classes which will help you if you wanted to store your data and archive the data, you don't need to pay much. So for example, you can put it in infrequent access. Okay, you can archive them in AWS Glacier. So just remember that AWS has different storage classes so that you can reduce the cost of your storage based on how you keep your documents, right, in a hot or in a cold. So if you keep in hot, you can archive or you can retrieve it very fast. That is called hot storage. If you keep in the cold storage, it might take minutes or hours to retrieve the document, but you will be paying very less. So any organization who wants to store their archival of data, because every organization will have data retention policies, they might need to store the data for 10 years, 15 years for regulation audit purpose, right? So they can use AWS S3 archive storage. Okay, so this is for AWS S3 buckets. So let me go through EBS and EFS. Those are the 2 other services, elastic block storage and elastic file storage. Okay, so if I go to ECS, I think the elastic block storage is under volumes. See here, volumes. So whenever you create any EC2s, so you will automatically attach a block storage. Okay, so just remember, elastic block storage is meant to, like an additional disk you can attach to EC2 or a RDS database. Okay, so that's elastic block storage. And just a questions might come, snapshots or encryptions. Just remember that you as a customer, you can take snapshots from your block storage. Snapshots is a way of taking backups, and also you can encrypt the data that is stored in the EBS also, elastic block storage. Just remember, like a foundational thing in AWS, anywhere you store the data, you have capability to encrypt the data. That's the security of the data that you have to take control of it, correct? That's the customer responsibility to encrypt and secure the data, right? So all these services like AWS S3 bucket, EBS, even the EFS, which we are going to talk, elastic file storage, all they support encryption at rest, also encryption in the transit. Okay, so now the next one is elastic file storage, right, EFS. So if I look for that, so Amazon elastic file storage is like a native NFS file system, right? This is pretty common in every organization. We will have file storage like a drives, right? H drive, E drive, T drive, like that, shared drives, right? So Amazon also provides elastic file storage system that we can attach and use it as a network drive. Okay, so this is about storages. If I go back to storage, we discussed about what is Amazon S3 as a object storage. EBS is a block storage. You can attach elastic block storage to S3 buckets, EC2 and also RDS database, correct? And EFS is a elastic file storage like NFS system, all those things. Okay, so let me go to the next services are called messaging. So you have three messaging services you need to remember in AWS. They are pretty simple, platform as a service. They are very easy to use. I will have more hands-on labs videos I will be sharing. You please go to the labs playlist and you can have hands-on on this. Not just for the practitioner exam, they are very useful in any role you get into AWS. Knowing about Amazon SN and SCS are pretty common use cases. Okay, if you are a DevOps engineer, you need to know SNS, SCS for when you do CI/CD auto deployments, you might need to send notifications, correct, or open a automatic tickets, right? So if any issue happens, as a data analytics, data engineers, when you are doing any analytics of the data, so you might need to publish the data as a reports. Right, BA use cases as an email, so you can use SCS. If you are an application developer or an architect or a cloud engineer, infosec guys, you might be using SNS and SCS. And if you are an application developer or an architect, and if you are looking for event driven architectures or decoupled architectures or microservice architectures, you might need SQS. SQS is to decouple the applications via HTTP coupling, right? You can use message driven, MQ driven or a message driven. So SQS is the equivalent of IBM or Apache MQs. Okay, so let's quickly go through what are SCS, SNS and SQS in the console. Okay, so if I go back to my AWS console and if I look for, I will start with SCS. Okay, Amazon Simple Email Service. So Amazon Simple Email Service helps you to send emails. Okay, so you can call the service from any application running in Lambda or container services, or you wrote your own custom code and deployed on EC2. You can connect to SCS and send emails. Okay, so Amazon SCS helps you to send emails. Also you can templatize it, and also you can call this email. So that's where you can have email templates. So if you want a nice email, structured email, you can use Amazon email templates also. You can have suppression list, like if you want to block any emails and you don't want to send emails automatically, if the application is trying to send email to particular emails, you can block them here. Okay, so they also have reputation metrics. Reputation metrics is where how many are bounced back, or how many of the users doesn't like our emails and they want to unsubscribe or block the emails. That is called reputation. It will come back. So you can even see it has SMTP settings if you want to use your own SMTP servers and all. Okay, so that's the Amazon SCS, Simple Email Service. Okay, so if I go to SNS now, Amazon Simple Notification Service. Okay, so Simple Notification Service is like a topic, okay, rather than queue. SQS is for queue, SNS is for topic. Okay, and in Amazon SNS you can do PubSub, or you can do application to application, right? You can send a message and all the consumers of that message in the topic can be consumed. So it's like a public subscribe model. So just remember, Amazon SCS is for email service, SNS is for messaging topics. Okay, like SNS. Okay, like application to application, or it can be application to person. This is very important. You can use Amazon SNS, Simple Notification Service, to send text messages to the mobile phones. Okay, so if you build an application and you want to send OTP message or any transactional message or any marketing message, you can use Amazon SNS, application to person. Not only text message, they also support in-app push notifications. So you can do in-app push notifications, you can do text messages, even you can do email from the SNS, but it is not as powerful as SES, okay, the one we talked. So just remember, Amazon SES is email, SNS is topic. Using Amazon SNS, you can communicate between the applications using PubSub model, publishers and subscribers model. And Amazon SNS also supports application to person, where you can send text messages and in-app messages to the mobile phones. So that is Amazon SNS, okay. If I now look for the next service, Amazon SQS, okay, simple queue service. So Amazon SQS is a messaging queue service, okay. It is equivalent to any queue platforms, for example Apache MQ or IBM MQ, or Microsoft also has MQ, right? Any queue based applications you can use. This is to decouple and build event driven architectures, okay. Those kind of microservices architectures can be built using Amazon SQS. Again, just if you wanted to note down this, keep noting, pause this video and you can keep noting these services. Amazon Cloud Practitioner looks for what service is meant for what purpose. That's why I'm not going into deep into this. We can go deep into these services and do more labs as part of other courses. But for Cloud Practitioner, all you need to know is you need to learn what service is meant for what purpose, okay. So with that, we know what are these messaging services, right? If I go back, so we know SQS, SNS and SCS, right? Messaging services. So now let's talk about monitoring. So in the monitoring, we have VPC flow logs, CloudWatch and CloudTrail. So I will quickly talk on VPC flow logs and then I will go to the console and I will show you what is CloudWatch and CloudTrail. Okay, so VPC flow logs, as I discussed in the network, we have VPC, right? So in AWS, all the network is coming from VPC, virtual private cloud, correct? So in VPC, if there might be a question where a network engineer has to troubleshoot and something is not working via the network, you are getting 404 error or some error, IP not available, service not available, but the network engineers has to troubleshoot where the network issue is happening, correct? If they have to look at the network logs, so just remember that networking team will look the network logs in VPC, they are called as VPC flow logs. So VPC flow logs are the network logs, okay. And for an application developer, if you write any application code and you wanted to look at the logs yourself, typically in the organizations people use data logs or elk stack or Splunk, right? These are the popular log ingestions or log analytics systems, right? So in AWS, the equivalent observability or log monitoring troubleshooting purpose, the service is called CloudWatch, okay. So CloudWatch is the logs monitoring system. Just remember the name, Amazon CloudWatch, okay, is for application logs, and VPC flow logs is for network logs, and CloudTrail is primarily meant for info security network guys, okay. The CloudTrail will tell what happened in AWS, who logged in, what is their credentials, I mean did they get proper credentials logged in, or they got any unwanted credentials logins errors, or what activities happened, who deleted S3 buckets, who deleted EC2. If the InfoSec guys or InfoSec team need to know what happened in AWS, by whom, who did what, and when, CloudTrail logs will give the activity logs of the AWS. Application custom logs are CloudWatch. Network logs are VPC flow logs, okay. Just remember this. And what I will do, I will go to CloudWatch and I will just show you in the console, okay. CloudWatch. Remember, Amazon CloudWatch is heavily useful for developers, architects, DevOps guys, network InfoSec guys, and all, even data engineers, data analytics. But just for Cloud Practitioner, you don't need hands-on. So in Amazon CloudWatch, you can go to log groups and you can check the logs. See this, I have some logs. You can go to application log. These are my Lambda logs, and you can go and check any of these logs, okay. I will, if I go here, I can see the logs here. Okay, I don't have much log streams here. So logs enabled for API gateway like this. So these are the logs. Not only for logs, just remember AWS CloudWatch is also meant for alarms. You can create alarms, metrics. You can explore all the metrics of your AWS services like your DynamoDB, S3 bucket, and EC2, RDS. You name any AWS service, you can watch their CPU, memory, how much is the log space, disk space, like any custom metrics you can build, and you can build an alarm on top of them, and that alarm can be connected to SNS topic, and it can create auto ticket. I will have a lab for this. This is important if you are getting into DevOps, SysOps, architect roles. Okay, so just remember Amazon CloudWatch. Okay. So if you go to VPC, you will see the VPC flow logs. Okay, I just wanted to show the VPC flow logs. So you have transit gateways and VPC network firewalls. Okay, these and all are fine. So if I look for flow logs here, okay. So I think you need to navigate from the other way, I think, not from here. Okay, anyway, so I will skip that. You need to know just that there are Amazon flow logs, okay, for network logs, okay. And then the another one is called Cloud Trail, okay. So as I was mentioning, Amazon Cloud Trail is continuously log your AWS account activity. It will capture, store, and act and review. So basically, it monitors the activity of the AWS cloud users, okay, not your custom logs. So this is mainly required for compliance, security, and all. Again, Cloud Trail comes with a free trails, but this is not so important for Cloud Practitioner to even have a hands-on, okay. So that's from the monitoring perspective. Okay, so we covered VPC flow logs, CloudWatch, and Cloud Trail. Just remember the purposes. The next one is security. So there will be some questions coming. So I would like you to at least understand these three services meant for what purpose. Secret Manager is very important service. Then AWS Shield and WAF. So I will quickly go to the console and I will explain what service is meant for what purpose. Okay. After that, we will go through a few very interesting and important machine learning services. So if I go back to the console, I will start with Secret Manager, right? So if I go to Secret Manager, so remember AWS Secret Manager is easy to rotate, manage, and retrieve secrets. Okay, so these secrets can be in your applications. You want to store some credentials of databases or credentials of API keys, any secret you wanted to store, you can use Amazon Secret Manager. Okay, and not only that, the database master, username, passwords, those credentials also can be stored in the AWS Secret Manager. And the advantage of AWS Secret Manager is it automatically rotates the keys when they are expired. Okay, and you can see the pricing of per secret and how many calls you can do. There is a 30-day free trial if you want to learn, but after that 30 days itself it will start charging you. So for Cloud Practitioner, just knowing the Secret Manager is good enough. Okay, but we can do labs if you are interested to do this beyond the practitioner exam. Okay, so this is Amazon Secret Manager. Just remember, Amazon Secret Manager is to store and retrieve any secrets from the application or from the databases. Also, Amazon RDS automatically connects to Amazon AWS Secret Manager to store the secrets. Okay, now the other service is Shield and WAF, correct? If I search for WAF, you will see both the services, Amazon WAF and Shield. So I just want to quickly talk on this because the exam question might come. So Amazon AWS WAF, Web Application Firewall. Remember, this is equivalent, or another one is called a network firewall. Okay, so AWS or in any IT industry, you need two firewalls. One is WAF, Web Application Firewall. Another one is network firewalls. Okay, network firewalls purposes are different. They are to control in and outbound network traffic. Okay, what ports from your internal infrastructure can leave the internet, go outbound. Okay, you don't want any fraudster or hacker steal the data from your internal infrastructure. So that's why you used to have firewalls blocking the outbound calls, right? So AWS WAF is works at the layer 7, which is Web Application Firewall. Web Application Firewalls protects you from bot traffic, DDoS traffics, or you can have any IP based rules to restrict the traffic coming. WAF can be attached to CloudFront. That's what we were seeing when we saw CloudFront. We had WAF capability there option, right? WAF can be attached to API gateway, can be attached to any load balancers also. Okay, then you have another one service is called Shield. So Amazon Shield is a managed DDoS protection service. DDoS or brute force attacks, right? Is Amazon Shield. You see, Amazon Shield automatically monitors in which country attacks are happened. Is the summary of events AWS has detected and protected. So there was a large packets attacked, largest bitrate attack, most common vector is SYN flood. So this is all total number of attacks were 67,253 in last 2 weeks. So this AWS Shield comes with automatically free of cost, and you don't need to pay, and it is automatically attached to your CloudFront, load balancers and API gateways. Okay, so but if any organization wants to purchase additional insurance, like insurance to your company organization whenever any attack happens, okay, you can purchase Amazon AWS Shield Advanced. Okay, so for example, see, subscribe to the Shield Advanced. If I am subscribing Advanced, it is a price. So remember, AWS Shield is for DDoS protection. AWS Shield Basic is free of cost, but AWS Shield Advanced DDoS protection you have to pay. But when you pay 3,000 per month, there is a fee, but you can pay for 1 year commitment and get a discount also. What is the advantage you will get in AWS Shield is you can get a insurance, and also like insurance, like whenever any issue happens, they will be able to help you. AWS SRT, okay, they have Shield response team. They will be able to help you and resolve your issues also. So you will have an on-call in-person support or on-call support. Also, they will give you some protection of giving you chargebacks to you for any attacks happened on your infrastructure, and if you prove that so much of dollar amount your company organization has lost from the attacks, they give like a insurance also. Okay, that's a Shield Advance. Okay, so if I go back, so we discussed on WAF, Shield, Shield Advance, and also Secret Manager. So again, these are all the services. Again, I would like you to at least remember and learn what services were meant for what. So the finally AWS machine learning services, we will review these, and then we will get into some practice exams questions also. Okay, so AWS machine learning services. So AWS machine learning services are easy to use. They are very simple SaaS platform as a service. You don't need to write configure, or you don't need to do machine learning coding from scratch. Just remember these services, what service is meant for what, and it might come in your exam. Okay, Amazon recognition, just by the word you can say, right? Recognition is image recognizing. You can use this service to do the image processing. Okay, so you can have bunch of images and you send another image, or then it will tell if the image is matching or not. You can do face ID logins with Amazon recognition. You can have a live video stream and search for an image in that live video stream. Nowadays government organization, public traffic, you can have a camera, and departments, police departments and all can have a live stream of camera and identify the stolen cars or stolen car numbers and all, right? They all use Amazon recognition equivalent services, right? So for image processing and video processing, Amazon recognition is the ML service. You don't need to do machine learning and all. You just use this service like any other service. Okay, so just remember, Amazon recognition is the image and video processing service. Amazon Poly is like a parrot, so it converts the text to speech. So if you have any text and you want to convert into speech, you can use Amazon Poly. I have a lab, you can practice that if you already have experience with Lambda, code and all, Python code, but as if you wanted to try out those Amazon Poly, I have a lab. Again, all the services, machine learning services comes under free tier, so you can learn Amazon Poly also. It converts text to speech. Okay. Amazon Lex. Amazon Lex is a fully managed AI service. It's for natural language processing, NLP. You can do chatbots, okay, conversational interfaces like chatbots and all. So Amazon Lex. Then the next service is Amazon TextRact. Amazon TextRact, by the name you can see, right? It is for extracting the text from the images, like a OCR, right? Scanned documents. So if you have a use case where you wanted to extract data from driving license, passport, or any ID cards, or any pay slips, any data, Amazon TextRact is the OCR service. Okay, so these are ready to use services. Again, I'm saying you don't need to write machine learning code. You just use these services from a Lambda code, you are good to go. I have labs to practice this, so please look those labs and have some practice also. Amazon Transcribe. Amazon Transcribe is an automatic speech recognition service. Okay, so for any reason you have you wanted to detect the person by their voice, and example, organizations can have voice based login systems, right, or password based voice based login systems or recognitions. So you can use Amazon Transcribe. Okay. Amazon Translate, you can just by see the word, right? It is for converting any language translations. Okay, any language to any language. If you want to translate like a Google Translator, Amazon Translate is the translation service. Amazon Comprehend. So there are so many machine learning services, but you need to just remember the names and what purpose they are. Purposefully built for different use cases, because AWS uses a very specific training, machine learning training on these services, so they are tuned for particular specific purpose. But nowadays Google Gemini or Amazon Bedrock, these are the artificial intelligence services. They can do all of this in one shot, and they are very they are evolving AI ML services, right? So you ask whatever you want to ask, they know what you are trying among all these use cases, and they reply the response. So they are very generic purpose services, but these services are very specific use cases. So I would like you to remember the names, because the exam these questions might come. Amazon Comprehend is natural language processing, so it can analyze the text under multiple use cases. I can say, when you are in a meetings, you want someone to capture all the meeting notes and summarize and give in a few lines. Nowadays Zoom, all these meetings, team sites has this kind of comprehend, right? So the Amazon Comprehend can be used to summarize the notes or the text from a bunch of the text, and it can give you in a very precise manner. Also, Amazon Comprehend can be used for sentiment analysis. This is one of the important use case, sentiment analysis. You can do, for example, customer care gives feedback, right? If you wanted to know how many among all the corpus of customer feedback data, you wanted to know whether the customers are happy or unhappy, in which countries they are happy and unhappy, and by which product they were happy and not happy, or so you want to segregate the text, you can use Amazon Comprehend for sentiment analysis. So just to recap, TextRact is to extract the text, Transcribe is recognition service speech, Translate is to translate the language, Comprehend is for NLP. Okay. So Amazon Personalize, right? Amazon Personalize is a similar service where you can do upsell and cross-selling, which is used by Amazon.com. Okay, if you are purchasing one product, you get another product cross-sold or upsell, right? So that is the Amazon.com service. Amazon Kendra, it is like an enterprise search. You wanted to search all the data, okay, so across your organization, that is called Amazon Kendra. I think I have some wrong text here. So and if you wanted to see all these AWS services, this is the link I will provide in the description of this video also. So with that, we covered the services. If I go back, right? So this one, so we covered all the services that you need to take Cloud Practitioner exam: VPC, Transit Gateway, Direct Connect, API Gateway, CloudFront, Route 53, similarly compute, database, storage, messaging, monitoring, security, and machine learning. So by knowing all these services at a glance, you will be able to take Cloud Practitioner exam. So with this, I would like to pause here for this, and I will have a separate live stream session, and in that we will go through practice questions and exam questions, and we will do a live session to how to answer the Cloud Practitioner question answers. I will share some realistic questions with you, how the exam questions will come, and that will help you to prepare for the exam and also practice the exam questions and answers, okay, how it will come in your exam. Thank you very much.